Good evening and welcome to Arizona Illustrated for Wednesday, the 12th of September, 2012. I'm Tony Paniagua. Local doctors and agencies are working on a major medical goal for our community. They are developing a new burn center to serve the residents of Southern Arizona, since we haven't had one since 2008, and many burn patients with specialized needs have to be transported to the Phoenix area. Andrea Kelly has that interview.
Joining us in the studio now is University of Arizona Medical Center Trauma Chief Dr. Peter Rhee and University of Arizona Medical Center Trauma Surgeon and Burn Specialist Dr. Gary Vercruysse. Thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Now, we're here, we wanted to ask you a little bit about the burn center that you're creating and developing right now. Dr. Rhee, it's true that there's no other burn centers in Southern Arizona at this point. This will be the only one at the University of Arizona?
Yes, you're absolutely right. A couple of years ago, we had an outpatient burn center at St. Mary's, and that closed. So that's a huge void in our town in Southern Arizona. Right now, the only burn center itself is in Maricopa. So everybody that gets burned and all of the population of people around Tucson and Southern Arizona often get flown all the way to Phoenix.
Now, Dr. Vercruysse, if you could expand on sort of why a burn center is necessary, what happens in a burn center that's different than just treating a trauma patient or using other resources to treat a burn?
Well, a burn center has not only the hospital staff, the physicians that have been specially trained to take care of burns, but also all the other things that go with it, the specialized tools in the operating room, the beds, the physical therapy, and all the occupational therapists and physical therapists and social workers that go along with that. So really we offer much more than a regular hospital can offer.
And Dr. Rhee, even though there is not a burn unit in Southern Arizona up to this point for the past several years, there are some burn treatments happening in University of Arizona Medical Center.
That's right. I mean, burns come in all shapes and sizes, as you can imagine. So when we first came here, or when I came here 5 years ago, everything was going directly to Phoenix. But what we've done is we've changed the system so they come through us, and the ones that we can't handle go up there. And right now we do handle some minor burns and some burns that we think that are of a place and location that we can comfortably treat without any issues for the patient. But we do use Maricopa Burn Center. We are in coordination with them, and that's one of Maricopa's goal, is to regionalize burn care in Southern Arizona. So obviously with someone like Dr. Vercruysse, a highly specialized person who's also very experienced and has a lot of expertise in this area, we hope that we can give more of a capability to our town and to the community here.
And Dr. Vercruysse, we were talking before the interview, you've started other burn units, including in Iraq and Afghanistan. Can you talk a little bit about how treating a burn might be different from another flesh wound, what it takes to specialize?
Well, just overall care of the patient. You have to understand these patients are severely injured. They have a lot of needs, including nutrition, ICU needs, and wound care needs. And frankly, a lot of physicians just aren't experienced with burns, and having that extra training gives you the experience to deal with their overall care, not just their burn.
And would you guys say the burn unit at the University of Arizona Medical Center is up and running now, or are you still working on getting to that point?
Well, we're going to get to that point, in meaning that we don't have a dedicated facility just for a burn, which is implied by the burn unit itself. We have a burn program, and that's what we're going to continue to foster and mature in our system right now. Gary lets us hold on to and treat a lot more burns that we used to not be able to do before, which is really great for the families. They don't have to drive all the way to Phoenix to see their loved ones. Sometimes it's prolonged hospitalization, and as you can imagine, that takes quite a toll on the family.
And I would assume, just as in any other kind of trauma situation, the faster you can get treatment, the better, in terms of it's better if you don't have to transport someone to another part of the state?
Correct. And it also saves a lot of money, frankly. The transport costs are quite significant.
What does that entail? I mean, you have to be careful about the wounds themselves as you do the transportation, correct?
Well, the wounds are dressed before they get transported, so that's usually not that big of an issue. But just the overall cost, a helicopter ride's several $1,000s, several tens of thousands of dollars.
About $13,000 to $15,000, if you can imagine. So a lot of the patients that go up there right now we can treat. So doing it something like that locally, where we have hundreds of burns every year in Southern Arizona, would make it very good for the entire healthcare system.
And from the administration perspective, what does it take financially and in terms of personnel and staff to start up a unit like this?
Well, we have to hire someone like Gary and convince him to move town and bring his family here. So recruiting him is one of the expenses, to be honest with you, as well. But we do a lot of very high intense type of care, intensive care at the hospital already. So it shouldn't be too difficult, but there are some special needs for burn patients specifically, and the hospital is going to address that. We'll probably do some fundraising to ask the community to pitch in as well, because obviously this is something that we're doing strictly for the needs of the community itself. You know, this is our academic hospital here needs to be here to further research and further medical care all around, but you know, we're here to be a referral center for all the other hospitals.
You know, you brought up a point I was just about to ask about, you know, with both being the only level 1 trauma center and then also having the only burn unit, how does the University of Arizona Medical Center work with other hospitals in dealing with regional treatment?
Yeah, I mean, we're here to support them. You know, if there's things that they can handle, then that's great, and that's a great way to distribute the injuries. But if there's things that they can't handle in the community, we're here strictly for that purpose and role. And we want to be able to have Tucson be a real big town, and it's a city that's got so much going on, and not having something like a burn program is absolutely ludicrous, and this is what we're really approaching.
All right. Well, thank you both for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
An assistant professor at the University of Arizona College of Nursing is one of only 12 educators in the nation to receive a Nurse Faculty Scholar grant from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. It is a special honor, and tonight we are joined by the recipient, Dr. Matthew Gallek, to tell us more about the grant and what it means for him. Dr. Gallek, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So let's ask you first about the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. When did you hear about this grant, and why did you decide to go ahead and apply?
There is actually another nurse faculty scholar in our university, well, specifically the College of Nursing, Dr. Ruth Taylor Piliaye, and that's how I became aware of this program.
And what about the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation? We've heard about it, a lot of us have, but what is it that they do?
They're the largest philanthropic organization that deals with healthcare in the United States, and their goal is to improve health and healthcare of Americans.
Okay, so how competitive was this grant or this application process?
Extremely competitive. So there are only allowed to be one applicant from each individual College of Nursing or School of Nursing throughout the country. There were about 75 applicants. We were whittled down to about 20 interviews, and then 12 of us were accepted.
And what was that process like for you? What did you have to do specifically?
The interview was very stressful. We had to meet with their nurse advisory committee, which has people on it from throughout the country. One person in particular is Dr. Patricia Grady, who's the director of NINR at NIH, which is the nursing research piece of NIH.
All right, so this grant is for $350,000. What happens now from here?
So the grant itself, part of that money, well, first of all of the money is given out. The award is over 3 years. Part of the money is to support my research. In this case, I'm looking at genetics involved in subarachnoid hemorrhage, which is a type of stroke. And this also helps support some of my salary and allows me to help people to hire people to help me look at this disease.
And what do you hope to do with this type of stroke? What knowledge do you hope to gain, and then how can that be put to use to help other people in the future?
So as a nurse scientist, one of the things that we're really concerned with is the health outcomes of people after they have a disease. So my overall goal is to improve these outcomes. Because it's a type of stroke, these people tend to have some deficits. They may be physical deficits or cognitive deficits. What my research looks at doing is trying to prevent these deficits from occurring by looking at the genetic and biological pathways that may cause secondary injury or cause poor outcomes.
So you're trying to look at what maybe causes or what leads to these strokes and then how to deal with them afterwards?
So my research doesn't specifically look at the cause of the stroke. So we know there are some underlying factors to have this type of stroke. One is being a female. in the age of around 55. That's the average person that has this type of stroke. If you're a smoker, that's a bad thing. If you have high blood pressure, it's a bad thing. What my interest is, I'm interested in secondary injury called cerebral vasospasm. It's a very complex occurrence and very difficult to treat and to prevent. So what we're looking at is different pathways that influence the cerebral vasospasm.
Okay, great. We often hear about the lack of nurses throughout the country. What inspired you to become a nurse, and why would you recommend this field to other people?
So I think a lot of us that go into nursing, the main thing that we say is we're interested in helping people. Going beyond that helping people, I was a researcher in my first undergrad, which was psychology, and I wanted to go on to become a nurse scientist and to do research in the medical field, specifically looking at brain injuries.
And why would you recommend this career? Because you're combining a lot of different things, science, research, nursing. Why would you recommend this career to other people?
It's just, you can do anything that you want in nursing. There are so many areas, and if you aren't happy with where you start out in nursing, you can just change gears and go into a different area. So for instance, if you aren't happy working as a nurse in a hospital, you could go into informatics and work it with computers that still deal with nursing in the nursing field.
Okay, and then finally, what do you hope to, or when do you hope to have some information as a result of your research and the fact that this grant has come along to help you out?
I'm hoping to start having collecting the data within the next month and probably start preliminary analyses within a year, but final data will be within 3 years.
Okay, well, Dr. Matthew Galick at the University of Arizona College of Nursing, congratulations on the grant and good luck.
Thank you.
Senior citizens are often targeted by companies or con artists who want to take their money or steal their important and personal information. Tonight we have some tips to help you protect your sensitive documents and legal papers and to keep you from becoming a victim of fraud. For that, we are joined by Tormay Newman. She is the Director of Education and Training for a company that works on behalf of seniors and their families. Tormay, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me tonight.
So the name of your company is called Home Instead Senior Care. What is that all about?
Home Instead Senior Care is really, we are a franchise. We're one of many franchises. There are about 900 franchises all throughout the United States, and we're in 60 countries. But basically, we do non-medical care, which means light housekeeping, meal preparation, and transportation. And we also provide companionship, and we act as an advocate for our seniors.
And speaking of becoming an advocate or acting as an advocate for seniors, one of the problems or the concerns that you have is with senior fraud. It's quite common, is it not?
It is becoming more and more common, and we see it even in with Home Instead Senior Care. We notice that people are getting a lot of solicitation by mail, asking for money, false charities, people coming to the door, and when our caregivers are there, they can actually call the office and let us know if these things are actually happening.
What are some of the common schemes that you hear about? You've mentioned a few, but specific examples if you can have any.
Some of the common schemes are actually just somebody coming to the door, and they know that the senior is there. Maybe they're vulnerable, they're by themselves, they live alone, and they're targeted. And they may come up with some kind of a company business that they have, allegedly. They may come to the door and not really have any information or a name tag or anything in writing about their company, whether it's repair services. We notice that quite a bit. And I mentioned the sweepstakes. And for those that actually use the computer, a lot of people will actually think that they're going to get money by providing a service with money. So that's another type of scam that we see as well.
So in the case of somebody who wants to provide some kind of a service, as you say, maybe air conditioning or something like that, what is it that they're trying to do? They're trying to go there, do the work and then charge a lot of money for it, or not even do the work?
Oftentimes what I've seen is, and heard also, is that actually they will ask for a partial payment up front or some kind of payment of services up front. You really need to be aware of that completely. And it's best to go ahead and call the Better Business Bureau and find out, or the Attorney General's office, and find out if these businesses are a scam. It's better to go ahead and be safe than sorry.
We were speaking prior to this interview about some of the statistics, some of the numbers nationwide and statewide. What can you tell us about those?
Nationally, it really is overwhelming. We're looking at about probably 25 million people each year who are actually defrauded out of about $2.9 billion. And this is each year. That's the national level. At the statewide, I think the Elder Abuse Task Coalition here in Arizona said that there are about 24% elder abuse cases that have to do with fraud alone. And here in Tucson, we're at about 23% of cases that have to do with fraud out of total abuse and neglect.
Okay, and then tomorrow you are holding an event to try to help out in this process by shredding documents that may have very important information.
Absolutely, and that is another thing. If you can get your loved one a shredder at home, by all means make sure that you shred documents. We are going to have a shredding event, and that's going to be from 8 o'clock to 11 over at Northminster Church. And Northminster Church and Shred It, which is a security company, and Homestead are all collaborating together to put this event on. You can go ahead and bring anywhere from 5 bags to 5 boxes of items that you want shredded, and we'll be happy to help you with that.
It used to be that you could just throw your papers in the garbage, but that's no longer safe.
It really is sad but true. You really have to make sure that you shred everything. And we're providing the opportunity and hope that people will take advantage of that tomorrow. We also have a wonderful kit that is available, and you're welcome to go ahead and contact our office, and that's 770-9943, or you can preventfraudforseniors.com. This is actually a wonderful checklist that we have from Homestead Senior Care that will let you know whether or not your loved one is vulnerable for fraud.
And then finally, we were talking about the fact that some seniors have been doing great all along, but now they are getting older and dementia becomes a problem and an issue that they have to deal with.
And you know, dementia is becoming a difficult situation. We know that probably half of all people age 85 and over will develop some type of dementia, usually Alzheimer's. And if they are living on their own, or their loved ones are in other states, they may not really be aware of what's going on. One of the first signs, too, in the early stage could be that they're not managing their money very well, or they're getting confused about who to pay or what businesses are appropriate.
Okay, Torme Newman, thank you very much for joining us. Once again, the shredding event is tomorrow at Northminster Presbyterian Church, Fort Laurel and Tucson Boulevard from 8 in the morning till 11. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Next, we go to Christopher Conover and this week's edition of Political Focus.
Now that the fall election season is in full swing, 2 southern Arizona candidates are getting some national attention. Republican Jonathan Payton, who's running for Congress in Congressional District 1, and Martha McSally, the Republican running in Congressional District 2, have both been recognized by the National Republican Congressional Campaign Committee as what the NRCC terms young guns. That moniker, according to the group, means that the 2 candidates have reached certain benchmarks, most of which have to do with fundraising. The races for CD1 and CD2 both have gained plenty of attention from the national parties. Both the Democrats and the Republicans are actively monitoring the races and have spent money for ad buys in the districts over the last few months. The Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee lists CD2 Democrat Ron Barber as one of its front-line candidates and is actively soliciting funds on its websites for Barber's campaign. For the latest political and campaign news, go to the Your Vote 2012 section of our website at azpm.org. And that's this week's Political Focus.
Many Arizona residents travel to Puerto Peñasco or Rocky Point, Mexico to enjoy a few relaxing days at the beach, but some are exploring other parts of that city and becoming more engaged in the community. Next, we speak to a volunteer who is taking part in efforts to reduce the pet overpopulation problem south of the border. Caitlin Harrington has that interview.
Joining me in studio today is Kristen Sorich. She is a volunteer with the Animal Adoption Center of Rocky Point. Thanks for joining me today, Kristen.
You're welcome.
Kristen, talk to us a little bit about this organization. You do have a clinic coming up in November, and tell us a little bit about what you'll be doing.
Okay, so ACORP, which is the Animal Adoption Center of Rocky Point, is a 501c3 organization. It's a nonprofit organization, and it's been going on for four years now. And ACORP was founded by Nancy Phelan, who is also a resident of Rocky Point. And one year, she decided to head down to Rocky Point, and she realized how big of a problem the animal overpopulation is down in Mexico. And she decided to gather with the city and a couple of the businesses and the residents and start up a nonprofit organization to help homeless animals. So Phelan gathered with the city, and she also gathered with some of the people from the animal control down there. And they got together, raised a bunch of money, and they started their first clinic 4 years ago. And the clinic is all volunteer-based. So this year, in April, we had 8 volunteers, and they're all veterinarians from northern Mexico, as well as 2 from Tucson, Arizona, Bert Blumenfield and Dr. Joe Valentine. And they came down to Mexico, and we did the clinic. It was a 2-day clinic, and we spayed 161 cats and dogs. So this year in November is the 5th annual clinic, and we're hoping to spay 200 cats and dogs.
In November, can you talk to us a little bit about the conditions of the actual spay and neuter clinics? They're obviously doing them for free to try and get people in, but can you tell us a little bit about what you experienced at the clinic in last April?
Yeah, so in April, of course, I'm not a veterinarian, so I was just helping with cleanup and anything that the veterinarians need, such as, running an errand, grabbing some medications, or helping with the pets that were outdoors waiting in the line. But the conditions are nothing like we would think here in the United States. It's just this place is in a park, and it's a little building, a small little building, and about 15 of us or so crammed into this little building, and there's ironing boards that we put the drapes on, which is a covering for the ironing boards, and then the animals, we sedate them and put them on top of that ironing board, and we do the spay and neuter. It's about a 10-minute process. It's very quick, and they go home with usually a little bit of pain medication, but sometimes none. It just depends on how many donations we get that day or that weekend or the week before. So it's very different than it is here in the United States, but like I said, any donations from the U.S. or in Mexico will help tremendously for the next event in November.
And can you talk to us a little bit about how you were first involved with this organization and why you think it's important?
Yeah, well, I became involved because I have worked at a vet clinic here in Tucson for the last 6 years, and one of the veterinarians there, Joe Valentine, asked me to come down with her and another technician to participate in the event and cover it for another story. And so I was like, of course I'll do it. I love animals, and I've been going to Rocky Point since I was a little girl, and personally, just going down there and seeing the change in animals roaming the streets has been dramatic, actually. Over the last 6 years, I would say, I would go down there and, you'd see cats and dogs roaming the street. And over the last 4 years, it's definitely decreased in the amount of animals roaming the streets. So I don't know if that's just from these clinics or maybe the education that these clinics have poised out to different people in the city. But I think that education and these clinics have definitely cut down in the amount of stray animals.
And can you talk to us a little bit about how the organization is getting the word out to people? How do you get people to be aware of the clinics and to come in and take care of their animals?
Yeah, well, right now we're advertising a lot over social media. So we have a Facebook site under A Corp, and there's also several other websites that we advertise on. And Nancy writes for the Rocky Point Times. So she is advertising in the newspaper down there all the time. And as the event approaches, you know, we talk about it more frequently here in the United States as well as in Mexico. And they also have different organizations that donate banners and signs to post up in the city down there along with here. But me working at a clinic, I'll go over and I can talk to a few of the other clinics around here in this area and ask if they want to participate or donate supplies or anything that we can do to help would, you know, is great.
Well, Kristen, I thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll put up all the information on our website where people can go and make donations.
That's great. Yeah, thank you.
In tonight's video postcard from photographer Cooper James and editor Laura Taflinger, we take you to Govinda's in Tucson. It is a restaurant that holds an annual event known as Krishna Fest.
Welcome to Krishna Fest 2012. It's our celebration of Krishna's appearance. He is the Lord of the cosmos. He is the ultimate. So all other Shiva and Brahma and all they bow to Krishna. So that's why we celebrate Krishna in a special way called Jamastami. That's what's happening tonight. Prizes for people who come here. We've got gopi dancers, we've got fire dancers, we've got magicians and jugglers, and we're here just to have a good time.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
You can get more news and information on our website, azpm.org. To comment on any story you saw tonight, click on it online and go to the bottom. We can also be reached via Facebook and Twitter. Coming up tomorrow night, there is a noticeable decrease in the number of apprehensions of illegal immigrants, but many people continue to die in the desert. We'll take you to the Pima County Medical Examiner's Office. And the Arizona Underground Film Festival is celebrating its 5th anniversary this year. We'll speak to a couple of organizers. I'm Tony Paniagua from all of us at Arizona Public Media. Have a great night.